Welcome back to Snapping Towels, episode 2 of season 2. Kyle, how we doing?
Doing great. Fired up after weekend one.
Crazy upset weekend.
Technically weekend two, but
Full
we
slate, first weekend of full slate.
full
Brought
slate weekend one.
some insane upsets.
Where to start? We posted a couple on our story of the three bangers that popped off right away, but we could get to those later. I think the first game that ended up tipping off was that Virginia Michigan game.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun game. You and I were talking pre-show. I think that's the most complete Michigan performance I've seen against a good opponent. Honestly, since they've, been a Division I program, I was very impressed. I think Virginia's championship medal kind of shined through late game, fourth quarter. Schellenberg, Cormier, guys like that really performed and buried when they needed to. But Michigan's got some players, man. I mean, we always knew they had some offensive talent, but Ryan Cohen and Zawada really, really impressed me.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think the box score doesn't do justice of how the game flowed, but early in the game, I was kind of kicking myself for the Michigan Wolverines because it is the first game and there's not a lot of tape out there. But if you've seen Virginia play, every quick whistle, restart, opportunity in the middle of the field, they're going to want to capitalize and push. And they did early. And it was just quick restarts, guys already cheating the whistle, getting downfield. It seemed like it didn't let up from Virginia the whole game. And I think that's the main thing Michigan pulls from the film this week on what they need to change, especially when playing Virginia game one. But I think if you're gonna play Virginia as a Michigan, game one's the best game to play them.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Credit to Michigan. I thought they had the athletes to kind of go blow for blow. It was kind of a sloppy game. It was a very early February college lacrosse game. Balls on the ground a lot. Bodies were flying. And honestly, like I really thought Michigan was just as good on the ground as Virginia, which, Virginia typically has as good a wings and as good as ground ball guys as anybody in the country. And I was honestly very, very impressed with the athletes Michigan had out there between the lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Sawada kind of proved himself to be a scorer against a good
Like a real
team.
player. Yeah.
Granted, I did coming into this year, the question mark for Virginia is their defense, and they didn't look that great.
Yeah,
So,
Nunes, as much as we love Nunes, he let up some softballs for sure.
and that's where it could hurt them in ACC. I mean, obviously they're in every game. Their offense is through the roof. The transfers they got showed through. Thomas McCombie, which we meant to mention in the first episode as a key transfer, balled out in the second half and finishing with 3-2. And then they had the big 5-0, the linebacker Ricky Mizane getting his feet wet early.
Kid's out there, man. He's out there. Got to give him
He's
some
an
credit.
athlete. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
It's an athlete sport. And but yeah, I think Virginia's defense is a question mark still. They're gonna put up 15 to 20 goals pretty much on any defense. So it's just if Virginia's defense can keep up.
Yeah, a couple things. One thing in particular, I kind of mentioned Nunes not having that strong a game. In his defense, I think he gave up two big pole goals where, and I don't know if this is what Lars is telling his guys to do, but I mean, nobody slid to the
Yeah.
pole on a fast break. I mean, this guy literally was running down Main Street and ended up with like an 11-yard step down twice. And,
Yeah.
you're just not going to stop that. If it's on cage,
11
that's
yards a
probably
stretch. It was like around the top of the box. That kid dropped a couple bombs. Ryan Schieber, I guess he's their threat in the middle of the field. He's not shy to pull the trigger.
No, he's not, but you got to know that. Like, you're kind of hanging Noonsy out to dry. Like, if that shot's on cage, that's maybe the toughest save there is.
Yeah, it's true. And it's funny, Schellenberger with a quiet 3-3. He really was buzzing the whole game. He started out the scoring early and then,
He's in complete control
continue
always.
to make plays. I'd love to see him on turf more, but that's just a me problem. Anyways, the biggest upset, not surprise of the week, aside from the Hounds taking down the Terps, is our Finns going to bringing the Dukies to the beach chairs and taking them down.
Yeah, our Adirondacks. Yeah, honestly, two
Which
years.
they did get more of.
I know. They
There's
were
like a
loaded with
hundred.
Adirondacks. I think they've been listening.
There's a
Honestly,
hundred Adirondack chairs down there.
dude, 2 years in a row. Like, can we even call it an upset at this point?
That's the thing. It's like I wouldn't be surprised next year
Don't
if
sleep on the Finns.
if the Finns aren't on Duke's schedule. I think they're done with the Finns in February. Because not to say we called it, but
Yeah, I
that's
mean, look,
that's
a second loss to Jacksonville in a row doesn't bode well for the Duke Blue Devils tournament chances. Um, but obviously it's early season, but good for Jacksonville. They lost a lot last year, in particular our boy six, Colin Hinton and Jack
mhm.
Dolan, reloaded with a couple transfers, some guys stepping into some big roles, and no game's too big for the Dolphins.
And Luke Milliken over 50%.
Yep. Yep.
He's a stud in cage, and I actually thought he was going to be leaving, so I'm glad he's back. He's a big stop for the Finns.
But it's not like Duke's guys didn't show up. Brendan O'Neill, 5 goals. Dyson Williams with a hat trick. Owen Caputo registering 3 points. Like their guys showed up. So, got to give a lot of credit to Jacksonville.
I mean, it's interesting. New keeper played a solid game. It was back and forth. This wasn't a lopsided game. It seemed pretty evenly matched. You see the same repeat offenders for Duke that they've had pretty much the last 3 years playing and being in the box score. Um, you got to think something's not right in that locker room.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of a little worried for our Finns after their game one against Hopkins. I think losing 12-7. I kind of thought, all right, they had a great year last year, lost some key guys, kind of some program guys. Maybe this is a year they kind of take a step back. But to come with this W,
You thought,
right?
yeah, you thought they
Galloway,
would,
baby.
but they're not. They're ready to go. On to Ridley.
Unreal. Unreal. I'll
Okay,
let you take it. I'll let the hound on the pod take it away.
first of all, the lacrosse media saying the lock of the week was the Terps -7.5
That's some disrespect.
at Ridley after losing. Their whole rope unit and their entire offensive unit is psychotic. 1. 2, the Hounds brought everyone back. And then their goalie play, which was the question mark, was incredible with Luke Stout. He
Yeah,
did
he
get
played a great game between the pipes.
and he was a good goalie. He played a lot last year. They're in a battle with an old timer that had a lot of good experience and a young guy, Luke. I think they knew who it was, but they just waited for it to kind of work itself out, and it has. I think Loyola's full rope unit returned. Their defense has been there for 10 years, it seems like. And their offense was pretty much clicking whenever they needed to. Guys were making plays. So it was
Returned everyone and plug in this kid Matthew Minikis, who I really, really like. To come first college game against the Terps, register 2 goals, one pretty memorable one at that. Yeah, I mean
I thought
Loyola's
the first one was better. Just dropping a bomb, but
yeah.
the second
But the
one
one,
was the one
second
in
one
the
really kind of
highlights.
showcased his
Yeah,
athleticism. Like, wow, this kid's a serious talent.
no doubt. Evan
That
James.
family's no stranger than putting it in the back of the net at the college level. Evan James started senior year off with 3 goals against the Terps. Gotta love that.
Yeah, you got solid feeders. Lindsey Higgins always going to draw. And then you just saw a stale, turnover infected Maryland offense that hung in there for a bit, but it was Hounds the whole day.
Yeah, and look, Maryland's gonna be fine. And Maryland's it's a long year. I think they're gonna be just fine.
I mean, with Ohio State pulling a good team together this year, and
Hawkins,
Michigan,
Hawkins,
Hopkins, the Big Ten's kind of a race now, and I think it should be in that state. Last year was a little bit. we knew who was going to. Maryland cleaned out every trophy case last year, so this was a great kind of showing that the parity is back, in which we said the first episode. It is kind of like I was hearing Quint on the Georgetown Hopkins game say he's never seen a pack that where everyone had a chance, like a 15 team
Yeah.
toss up when you add in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Ivy League.
And the Ivies. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what? Now the Greyhounds. And we kind of discussed that in our first episode, right? Like last year kind of was what it was. It was pretty much a one horse race, maybe the best team we've all ever seen, one of, if not the best. But this year, yeah, parity's definitely back. And
it's
for
beautiful.
Loyola to come out and make a statement like this week one after a really disappointing season last year in Baltimore, to establish themselves day one as the Patriot League favorite with an upset over Maryland and, a threat to make a run in the NCAA tournament. If you can beat Maryland, you can beat anybody.
Yeah, I thought Kyle Long was quiet. That was shocking. He's been All-American 2 or 3
Yeah.
years in a row.
Good day from
But
Daniel Kelly.
yeah, credit where it's due. Hounds all day, packed house, sold out crowd, probably 7,000 on deck, and it showed.
Be another one there this weekend.
Absolutely. Before we talk that game, we should talk the other upset, Georgetown Hopkins.
This was the game of the weekend, I thought. I mean, what an awesome scene at Homewood, some would argue classic powers. Hopkins definitely. Some people kind of on the fence about Georgetown, about their history, but a Georgetown Hopkins game that really delivered. I think Georgetown, preseason third in the country, loaded with transfers. Tucker Dordovic, Minikis. I think Will Bowen looking like a beast.
Yeah.
Like it's they're stacked. I was expecting them to make quick work of Hopkins, 5-6 goal game. Credit to Hopkins scheduling Jacksonville week one with a convincing W with clearly a good Dolphins team. And then coming out at Homewood, showing out an absolute dogfight. They were down 2 goals, going into the fourth quarter. Like things weren't going their way. I think they had an offsides call where the game looked like it really could have gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
And Hopkins really battled. Hopkins is good. They're legit. I'm really impressed with their defense. They have athletes that they haven't had in years on the defensive end. And their senior goalkeeper, can't think of his name right now. He's a real player.
Is Tim Marcel.
Yeah. Yep.
Quint's boy. He is great.
He's a spunky little goalkeeper. He's much improved. I mean, honestly, like I remember when he was younger, kind of jumped around a lot, like was kind of not that steady a presence in the cage.
Yeah.
Looked awesome against Georgetown and looked great a couple nights ago again in a loss against UNC.
I think a kid who's also filling a huge hole in Hopkins' offense is Russell Melendez, transfer from Marquette.
Huge get for them.
Bearing the biscuit.
Yep.
Shot it almost at 60%, 7 shots, 4 goals. That's a hell of a day. And he was the one that was kind of like if you're playing Hopkins, that's your number one pull is going to be Melendez. And I don't think anyone was talking about that before the year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That's a great point. Kind of caught people by surprise this weekend, I think. It'll be interesting to see as the year progresses if he can continue to produce at this level, being the top guy in the scouting report, pretty much getting the number one poll every weekend. But Hopkins is good, man. Credit to Crawley. He's bounced around a little bit, Colgate, Lehigh, and now he's at his alma mater. They're running kind of an interesting offense, kind of a spaghetti offense, like just crazy motion. Seems almost positionless at times. Hopkins is an interesting team and definitely a threat in the Big Ten, which honestly I wasn't expecting, man. I thought they'd get a little bit better. But to come out with this Georgetown win and now, maybe be a favorite or a pick 'em against the Loyola team at Ridley this weekend.
Well, we can't overlook their loss to UNC.
That's true.
Jump that gun. That just happened, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I mean, I think they ran out of gas in that game. It was 2 days after an absolute heavyweight matchup against Georgetown, an emotional victory. They came out hot in the first half. I thought they picked up right where they left off. They looked really good on both sides of the ball. Really just kind of hit a wall offensively in the second half. Credit to UNC, but I think Hopkins defense looked very, very good in that game. I really think the Hopkins offense just really hit a wall.
Hit a wall is one way to put it. I mean, you could also say like extreme turnovers, like
Yep,
unforced
some
errors.
undisciplined, yeah, for sure.
Just so, I mean, that's early season ball. I think late season, this is a better game than what it turned out to be. UNC, Lance Tillman kind of took over the rings offensively. He's kind of their guy. And then you insert Logan McGovern, who scores, he didn't shoot that well the other night, but he's a great player that UNC is going to rely on to bury the biscuit.
Yeah, UNC brought in a couple transfers. One I
Dude,
really like, this kid Sean Goldsmith out of
I was
Mercer.
just going to talk about him.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Dude,
Looks a little bit like Luke Goldstock almost, but on the right hand side. I like him. I think he's a really good player.
how about the specs?
Yeah, right. Wearing those glasses.
Insane, dude. Just metal
Not even
glasses.
rec
Like,
specs, just
yeah,
reading glasses.
metal glasses. Is that, yeah, I don't know that the safety on that one, but also Carolina's face-off guy was unconscious.
Yeah, he dominated the game.
I don't know his
They also have a
name.
Bucknell transfer. It's not Antonio DeMarco. This
No,
kid.
it's Harry Welford. Yeah, number
Okay, yeah,
4.
he had
Big
a nice goal,
body.
number 4. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
UNC for tapping the transfer portal. They've been known not to, aside from obviously Chris Gray.
Dewey Egan's in the mix. He was in the mix
Yep.
last year, getting a bigger role. And I love a healthy Matt Wright. Last year he struggled with knee problems, Canadian LSM. I project to be a first or second team All-American easily. He's just
Yeah,
got a
kid's got
motor.
serious wheels. I think before we move on, we have to discuss, in my opinion, the best player on the field. Definitely the best player for the UNC Tar Heels.
Yep.
Colin Krieg looked absolutely filthy. I mean, the goalie play on both sides in this game was stellar. Colin Krieg, like really through 4 quarters, looked so good between the pipes. His outlet passes were just so on point. I mean, the kid is just—he's a pro goalie. That's all you can really say.
No
Excellent
doubt.
player.
No doubt. I mean, he's gonna be a draft pick. I just hope there can be some goalie changing of the guards in terms of goalies in the PL, but we'll get to that later in the season. This is a big week. Ivy League's in the mix. Your boys are coming to play. There's a couple teams flirting with some high ranked teams early. The other one's got some pancakes. Who do you like this weekend?
I kind of want to start with Friday. I think a game's getting a little bit overlooked because both of them are coming off losses. Denver coming off a loss, against Air Force, they definitely like to have back. But I think the
Mhm.
Duke Denver game is a big game.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
you know,
classic.
it's a classic. You got your storylines, two classic programs, Danowski, Tierney, what have you. But this is a huge game for both teams coming off disappointing losses. I mean,
Yep.
both teams obviously have NCAA tournament aspirations, but even more than that, Denver in Tierney's final year obviously is gung ho to make a Final Four run. We'll see if they have the talent for that. Duke always has the talent. I think the winner of this game really kind of catapults in the right direction, and the loser has a lot of work to do. So I think it's a huge game. Um, and I'm looking for Brennan O'Neill to take over the game. And I think Duke comes away with the W here.
I think Brennan O'Neill is no foreigner to taking over games. I just think it needs to be someone else on Duke stepping up, primarily from the midfield. I think you can't just rely on him to get 4 or 5, and then the rest of your stat line kind of looks like 1-0-1.
You need Dyson Williams to register 4 to 6 points a game. They need that. They need that number 2 option.
And McAdory. He
Yep.
was a firecracker last year. I think they might have him on attack this year early.
I think they did.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that as much as him flying out of the box,
I
but
love him coming out of the box. I mean,
that's
maybe it's a testament to Duke's lack of depth. I'm not really sure. I'm not at practice every day. I'm not sure why they feel the need to have him at attack, but I thought he created serious issues coming out of the box
yeah,
and
even
matchup
on a
problems,
yeah, even and then
even on a pole.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like letting the other team pull your three best offensive players and then having a non-threat get pulled, and then the shorties aren't even worried about their matchups. It's kind of interesting coming out of the box. But regardless,
End of an era, man. It's the last Tierney Danowski matchup, maybe, unless they meet in the NCAA tournament this year. But like I said, I mean, I really think the loser of this game has a lot of work to
yeah,
do.
two all-time winning coaches.
Yeah.
Um, I love that Friday call. That's great. I love a Friday night under the lights situation.
Yeah, that's gonna be an electric game.
Jumping into Saturday, we touched on it. Loyola Hopkins is a banger. It's gonna be another sold out crowd at Ridley. The fans want more. There's tailgating now, which
I'd love to be there.
blows my
That
mind
just
that
sounds
that
awesome.
there wasn't before, but here we are,
Just like
2023.
classic Baltimore battle. Um,
Crab cakes and lax.
Hell yeah, I would love to be at that game. I think the Blue Jays are going to take it to your Hounds, man. I really do. I think they're going to come in there pissed off a Tuesday loss against UNC. And yeah, I mean, I think Hopkins' defense smothers Loyola's offense. And I think it's a low scoring affair. I think it's a 10-8, 10-9 game. It'll be an absolute battle. Very, very physical game.
We're gonna replay that clip next week when the Hounds pump Hopkins at home, which they traditionally do. This hasn't been a rivalry. This has been a dominance. I think the Hounds win in convincing fashion. I like your around your score, maybe 6 for Hopkins. I think they're kind of
10-6. You think Hopkins scoring 6 goals?
I think they're kind of a one-show pony on
Who's covering
offense.
Melendez for the Hounds?
Probably Matt Hughes. It's been a staple on the Hounds defense for probably 3 or 4 years now, with it one injury in there, giving him an extra year. But
You know,
possibly Cam Wires, who's a preseason All-American. He's been, covering number ones his whole career. Both of them probably wouldn't have a problem with Mendez personally. Just watching the film. I
you know
think
who's going to be a problem for
I,
Hopkins for 4 years, and I think he's going to have a huge game at Ridley. This kid Matt Collison, freshman Canadian midfielder, has an absolute cannon and has no problem taking pulls. I think he's got to be 6'4", 220.
okay,
Almost like a little Sam Hanley light.
you can
I think
keep
he's
pulling these tricks out of the bag. I'm not nervous. I'm not worried about a
I think
freshman
he's going to give the
Canadian.
Hounds some issues. I really do.
All I'm saying is the Ridley faithful will be there.
Hopkins
It'll,
band will be in attendance for sure.
yeah, they'll get a little piece. They'll get a little corner. Should put them
You'll be hearing that 10 times. You'll be hearing that song 10 times on Saturday.
We will see. We will see. That would be a good one.
I think Hopkins might be my team this year.
That's very unfortunate for all podcast listeners.
Just to spite you, I think Hopkins will be my team this year.
Well, you can't root for Colgate, so might as well be Hopkins.
Colgate's going to win this weekend. They're going to beat Air Force. It's going to be a huge win. I told you, what's going to be like a 9-4 season for the Raiders. Like they're going to beat Air Force.
Right
I
after
think it's a lock.
Right after Air Force beat Denver.
Yeah, I mean seriously, like I wonder what the line is on that game. I think that's a game you put your 401k on the Raiders.
Oh man, I would have put $10 on the Raiders. And then we got back to ball. We won't make this too personal. Yes, I think Loyola's going to take it. Moving on, I think a sneaky game of the week, and it's not going to be in anyone's highlights. St. Joe's Towson's is going to tell us a lot.
It's a gritty game.
I like it, and
really gritty.
Not much to
it's
say
about
about
as
it.
lax rat a game as it gets, honestly.
At Towson, I think
Even grittier.
I think it's great.
I'm going with the Hawks, St. Joe's. I mean, I think they're stacked.
Me too.
I know Towson's always got athletes, but
They
St.
got
Joe's
some
returns.
transfers too. Talked about last
that's
episode.
pretty standard. Towson's always dipping their toe in the transfer pool.
Baltimore kids to come back.
Yeah, for one reason or the other. Yeah, no, I think St. Joe's has too many players for Towson this year. St. Joe's returns everybody from that epic shootout they had with Yale.
Yeah.
Um, I like St. Joe's this year. I think St. Joe's wins that game.
Another game on the spot list, Maryland Syracuse.
Interesting game. I don't know if you caught the Cuse game from last weekend, but
Albany.
This kid
Albany, I
Spallina is,
did.
yeah, disgusting.
Yeah, he kind of got the monkey off his back, scoring 5.
Kind of wish Dordovic had stayed just to watch that, but that's a conversation for a different time. Yeah, I think has a pretty high-powered offense.
First time they're
With
gonna have to travel. They're gonna have to go to Bird Stadium, coming off Maryland's embarrassing loss to Loyola.
they're kind of going into a buzzsaw, to be honest.
And then you got Brett Maker and that defensive unit that's gonna want to make a statement.
I think Cuse is going to battle. I just think that's where Cuse is right now. They can battle, but I think Maryland is built to
Also,
not lose two in a row. It's basically how I feel.
is interesting last year with Maryland being so talented. I feel like they were just giving so much credit to like these coaches around him. Yeah, Tillman is all-time legend. He, deserves it. But Maryland's offense could have coached itself to that national championship, and everyone's just Bobby Benson, Bobby Benson. Personally, I don't think he did that well at Hopkins. I don't think he is doing that well at Maryland. Aside last year, anyone could have won with those players. Nothing. I don't know him personally. There's nothing against him. I just think
One of my least favorite players ever, but we'll leave that
this
aside.
this offense needs like coaching to put it like kindly.
Yeah, it's
And you
not.
saw nothing from them last week. So this will be something to watch for. Everyone's like, oh, this is Bobby Benson, like the conductor of the orchestra. Like all last year was all this like Bobby Benson coming to Maryland show out. And this year I'm like, okay, they have good players on offense. Where's this genius offensive coordinator?
Don't expect another quiet day from Kyle Long. I think honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Maryland won by 5 or 6 goals. Like, I really think. I just think they're built to not lose 2 games in a row. I think there's no way they come out lose to Cuse. I think they're going to come out humming, buttoned up, and then they win this game 13-7, 14-8.
Yeah,
I think Kyle Long. I
it's gonna
think
be a
Kyle
good
Long has a big
crowd there.
day.
That's a lax rat. That's a lax rat game. If you're an old Maryland head, you'd love to go that Syracuse, Maryland. The tradition's there. That would be a great time to go to Bird and watch a Saturday afternoon tilt.
Look, the game I'm most excited about is Georgetown Penn. I just think
Gonna be a banger.
it doesn't get any better than that. Last year was a huge game. Penn beat Georgetown in that game. I think Sam Hanley, BJ Farrar are back for blood this year.
You
Sam
got
Hanley's
best
100% healthy,
you got
and
best friends battling, Dordovic and Hanley.
Dordovic and Hanley, the Oregon products. Yep. Great point. I wonder if there was any I don't know what the transfer appetite is for Ivies or Penn, but I wonder if there was any strings try to be pulled there to get Dordovic into Wharton and play there. But anyway, yeah, I think it's going to be an epic game. I think Sam Hamlin's going to go off. He's going to come back with a vengeance this year. It's his 5th year. Obviously, finishing last year in a disappointing fashion after winning the Ivy League championship at Brown and really just having kind of an underwhelming quarterfinal game
With a broken foot.
With a broken foot against Rutgers. He's playing angry on Saturday, and I think BJ Farrar, as always, is going to be a menace all over the field.
And then you got an angry Georgetown that just lost the game. They
Yeah,
probably feel like they should have won. So this is going to be a ball game, folks.
it's also Penn's first game. I think Georgetown's had 2 thus far.
Yeah.
So they've had some game action, and you can look at it 2 different ways. It can be an advantage. Your first game, Penn probably has some. Penn, Mike Murphy, and Mike Abbott, excuse me, they probably have some tricks up their sleeves, some new guys maybe we don't know about. But also, it helps to be battle tested, and Georgetown is definitely that, coming off a heavyweight battle at Homewood this past weekend. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting. but I got to go with my Penn Quakers.
That's no surprising. That's not surprising at all. I think I think Georgetown bounces back and shows the experience that they have this season thus far. Um, I think it'll be a great game. I don't think it's going to be a one-sided game. I think it's going to be an up and down, back and forth, high-scoring event.
Two
Um,
very experienced teams, littered with fifth years.
I think James Shipley has a good game, breakout game. Shifty midi, brothers, the running back of Clemson. I didn't know that till their bowl game this year.
Another game that I'm pretty jacked about, speaking of the Ivy League, is Harvard, Virginia. I think it's has the potential to be an overlooked game, but Harvard had a really nice year last year, made the tournament controversially. A lot of Duke and Notre Dame fans were pretty angry about that. But Harvard had a freshman-laden team last year, and they're only going to be better.
Yeah, I think they figured something out up there, the Crimson. I think it's a tough first game to walk into, especially after Virginia has had a game, especially a good up and down game. Um, and they're going down to Klockner. This is definitely in the Who's favor, but I think the Who's are prepping intently because I don't think you can take Harvard lightly anymore. And I think the Ivy League learned that last year.
Yeah, and I don't think Lars is ever going to take any Ivy lightly. I think, A, he's got too much respect for the league, and B, he doesn't want to lose to an Ivy League team. That's the last thing he wants. So I don't think Virginia's taking Harvard lightly. I think it's a good point. I don't read too much into the home field advantage at this point. Like, I think honestly, Harvard would probably rather play in Charlottesville, Virginia, than Cambridge, Mass in February.
I mean,
Um,
all three of our upsets last weekend were home field
on the road.
advantages.
Okay, yeah, you're right, you're right. But I don't know. I don't read too much into it. I mean, I think it's personally I like the way games better, but yeah, I don't think Harvard going down south really makes a big difference. I think it almost helps them just playing in good weather, just kind of neutralizes things. Um, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a great game. I think Virginia wins a close one. I think they win 16-13. I think Schellenberger puts on a show.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good game. Really entertaining. Harvard's got some really nice attackmen, but I think Schellenberger puts on a show, as I said, and I think Cormier is just such money in the bank. I think he was 5 for 6 last weekend. I think
he's a hard
going to be
cover.
4 for 6 this weekend. I just think anytime his hands are free, it's hitting the back of the net.
Yeah, he's taking it to another level. I think he's kind of a Chris Coutier type season, scoring the ball, the confidence he has. You could tell in tight too. He's not throwing stick fakes or anything. It's maybe a head
No,
nod, quiet
in and
stick,
out.
just
Yep,
drilling goals.
shooting for white every time.
Yeah, I I see the same thing. We'll see Virginia's defense, right? That was my question mark. So I'm excited to see how that goes down with a good Harvard offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harvard's offense is better than Michigan's. And I know every year is different, but Harvard
And
mopped the field with Michigan last year.
their LSM
Um,
is great.
yeah, great player. Can't think of his name right now, but
So
Harvard mopped the field with Michigan last year. So Harvard's got real players. They're a returning NCAA tournament team, very battle tested. Going through the Ivy League gauntlet last year with some big wins. Harvard's going to be a tough out, I think, for Virginia, but they win in a close one, high scoring, 16-13.
it's Greg Campusy, uh,
Where's he from?
Farmingdale native, Stu Finer local, LSM,
Okay.
loves to sling the long pole, traditionally in black spikes. So we'll see if he keeps that going. And I think he's licking his chops after watching Michigan's poll get 2 freebies.
Agreed.
So that's gonna be one Lars is gonna have his eye out for, getting back guarding the LSM in transition this week. So that'll be a fun game to watch. We got a lot of fun games. Week 2, week 1 of the whole league getting involved.
Yeah. First, like,
Weird.
last weekend, earlier in the show, I mentioned last weekend was the first full slate of games. I guess I'll retract that now that the Ivy Leagues are officially in the mix and all the Patriot Leagues. Week 3, first full slate of games. So as we mentioned, we got a great one Friday night, a handful of good ones on Saturday, And then on Sunday to bring it home, I'm going to be in attendance. The Ohio State Buckeyes host the North Carolina Tar Heels. Um, you
First,
know,
go for it.
yeah. So a big storyline there, as always. Buckeyes UNC is Bresci built that program, built Ohio State lacrosse, kind of brought it to national prominence, and built it to where it is today. Nick Myers took over 12 years ago and has done a phenomenal job carrying that torch. But very close relationship between those two coaches. An emotional game. Nick Myers is kind of Bresci's protege. So Nick Myers always kind of has it out to beat Bresci, and Bresci definitely, as I kind of mentioned earlier with Lars, doesn't want to lose an Ivy League school. I can promise you, Bresci does not want to leave Columbus with an L. I think it's going to be a great game. Ohio State's got some good players. I was fortunate enough to go to their scrimmage against Robert Morris. I think Jack Myers is as good as they get as a quarterback attackman, with the exception of maybe a couple elite guys. But yeah, I think this is going to be a great game.
I'm jealous. I hope it's warm.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's going to be like high 30s, low 40s, and sunny. So
just
honestly, for Columbus in February, we'll take it.
make sure you get there early so you get one of those 35 seats they have at that new stadium they're breaking
We
in.
we got standing room only tickets, right behind the bench, which I'm pretty excited about. It's like, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, last episode, the stadium's a little small, I think, but it's very intimate, and the standing room seats are 7 yards off the bench. So I think it's gonna be a pretty cool environment.
Are they elevated?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Do you have to
yeah.
stand?
Yeah, there's no seats in this spot. I think
So
it's gonna be
it's
a packed house. Like,
so
as
it's
it's a
it's
tiny
just
stadium.
it's just like a raised platform.
So it's at like the basically the base of the bleachers. So where you would walk onto kind of normal bleachers and kind of stand and
Yeah.
look up, there's stairs right behind you to get up to the bleachers. Um, yeah, there's really not a bad seat in the house.
Well, there's only 50, so
Yeah,
I
you'd hope
can't
not.
imagine. No, that's exciting. That's an exciting game for them to kick off their new stadium at. They're gonna want to win it. Their D's great. BVB with the transfer we talked about last episode. I
And
just
a
hope
fifth-year goalie between the pipes.
I just hope there's something else offensively for Ohio State. And they have guys. They have crafty guys that can get goals on. So this isn't going to be an easy task for UNC. They might feel a little inflated after beating Hopkins at Hopkins. I'm going with Ohio State, the hometown team.
Wow. Um,
I think they're gonna have a breakthrough year in the Big Ten.
I think it's gonna be a really close game, and I wouldn't shock me if the Buckeyes came out on top. I think North Carolina is gonna win. You mentioned you think they could have an inflated view of themselves. Um, I'm not the biggest Joe Bresci fan there is, but I think in terms of things like that, kind of program intangibles, like I don't think UNC ever has like too inflated a view of themselves. I think they're pretty grounded program for the most part. I don't think they're going to be coming into Columbus overlooking the Buckeyes or thinking we just beat Hopkins at Hopkins. I think it'll be pretty focused.
We will see. I think Ohio State's size at defense is a big difference maker against Carolina's small attackmen.
They are small except for this new Mercer guy. What is it, Goldsmith? Kid's nice size.
Yeah, he's a finisher though. I'm talking about
That's a huge get for
dodging,
UNC. I think.
dodging threats. Very small,
Yeah, Lance
quick,
Tillman's not big.
quick but small. Um, yeah, I wish Ohio's. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Um, did Ohio State play already or no?
Yeah, they beat Air Force and I think Cleveland State.
Yeah, correct. Oh, and those but were both home too. So
They
I guess
hosted both those games.
this
Yeah.
is the first big game they're gonna host. Yeah, it's
Ohio
exciting.
State's got quite a stretch ahead of them. UNC, and they play Virginia. So they're not playing at Klockner. It's misleading on the schedule. They're actually playing them in Naples, Florida. So that'll be a neutral site. They got
That's cool.
UNC, Virginia, Cornell, Notre Dame. then they play Detroit Mercy, then they have Denver, and then they go into the Big Ten slate. So Ohio State's got a real schedule.
It's a great schedule.
Yeah, I got to give them a lot of credit
You
there.
got a couple, you got a couple pancakes, and then you play 4 top 10 teams.
Yeah, I mean, if they can split these, they got UNC and Virginia. If they can split this and not have any of those, either one of those be a blowout or a bad loss, um,
You
I think,
could you could be two, you could be 2-4 though, real quick.
yeah. But again, you're going into conference play and you're battle tested, and we know Ohio State's got players like they could win the conference. But yeah, you don't want to be 2-4.
God,
But you
what a
also don't want
good
to be
week.
6-0 against Cleveland State, Air
Yeah, no, no,
Force,
no. There's nothing better.
whatever.
You know what? You can't be scared of competition. I'm excited to see how it goes down. I think their defense is there for it. I just hope their offense can join them in the party,
Is
which I think they will.
is it going to be things going to get dirty in the Ridley stands this weekend?
No, it's a class act program. We're not there to get dirty. We're there just to win. So, and Hopkins kids, they don't want to go down that road. So I think they keep it cordial, just good cheering, good heckling from the stands, from
Golf claps.
a lot of golf claps, maybe some, I saw Belly on TV last week. Do you see that?
No. Oh yeah, I saw Belly. Yeah, yeah, I saw.
They had a close up of some kid in the Loyola stands. He just decided to rip his shirt up, which is always appreciated. I don't think the producer was paying attention because they kept it on a hair too long. But yeah, they're coming hydrated. They're coming loud, and they've got more school spirit than I've seen in a long time at that program. And I think that comes with, a little bit of the weather, and a little bit starting off the season with the Maryland is a good way to get people into the program. So
Totally.
I'm excited to see how it goes down. I know
Yeah,
that we,
like I said earlier, if you guys are looking to place a bet, I'm telling you, the Colgate Red Raiders, they're gonna beat Air Force.
that's bold.
Speechless.
I was gonna ask for the odds,
Crickets
but
over in LA.
I was gonna ask for the odds, but I know that line's not out. No junkies putting that line out in the ether.
Craig may have it. Anyway, well, that'll do it for episode 2, and heading into
Rock
an
and
exciting
roll.
week 3. Can't wait to talk about it next week.
What a pleasure.